In the span of just a few short years, humanity managed to unlock literally the universe's most destructive force. The Manhattan Project wasn't just some abstract lab experiment, it was a desperate, high-stakes race against time, shrouded in an unprecedented level of secrecy. Today we're going to look strictly at the historical facts to trace the exact steps of this escalation. We'll explore how theoretical physics transformed into a massive industrial juggernaut that fundamentally altered warfare, science, and global politics forever. This is the story of how the atomic age was born.
So let's dive right in. To understand how global warfare changed forever, we have to trace the atomic age back to its absolute origin. And honestly, it doesn't start with a giant explosion in the desert. It actually starts with a single piece of paper. Like, how does one warning letter fundamentally alter the trajectory of human history? To truly grasp that, we have to look really closely at the exact conditions of the world at that precise, terrifying moment in 1939.
Okay, let's get into part 1, the catalyst, also known as the Einstein warning.
Picture this. It's 1939, a year of terrifying historical intersections. At the very beginning of the year, the United States has absolutely zero nuclear weapons program. I mean, the whole concept was basically science fiction at that point. But then, boom, a massive scientific breakthrough completely upends the physics community. Scientists figure out that splitting a uranium atom releases an absolutely mind-boggling amount of energy. And here's where it gets really scary. This breakthrough happens exactly as Nazi Germany is rapidly expanding its military power under Adolf Hitler. You can imagine the frantic realization among top physicists, right? The ingredients for the ultimate weapon were suddenly known, and there was this very real, immediate fear that Hitler was going to build it first.
And that intense fear, it triggered one of the most consequential letters ever written. The legendary physicist Albert Einstein, along with some other deeply concerned scientists, drafted a direct warning to U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. They spelled it out, plain and simple. Nazi Germany could potentially weaponize this newly discovered uranium technology to create bombs of unimaginable power. It was this exact warning that finally tipped the scales. It convinced the highest levels of the U.S. government, hey, we literally cannot afford to wait, officially pushing them to launch their own highly classified nuclear research program.
Which brings us to part 2, building the bomb and the creation of the secret Manhattan Project.
Now, going from theoretical physics on a blackboard to physical reality took an unbelievable scale of human effort. We're talking about a workforce of over 130,000 people. 130,000! To keep a project of this magnitude completely hidden from the Axis powers, and from the American public for that matter, the U.S. government effectively built massive, secret cities almost overnight in places like Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Los Alamos, New Mexico. But here is the wildest part about the whole shebang. The compartmentalization was so incredibly strict that tens of thousands of these workers had absolutely no idea they were helping build an atomic bomb. They were hired for specialized tasks, working day in and day out, without ever knowing the terrifying puzzle they were actually piecing together.
Because you see, it wasn't just a science experiment anymore, it was a total industrial juggernaut. Pushing this from a concept into a deployable weapon required years of relentless trial and error, along with the staggering expenditure of billions with a B, billions of dollars. The scientists and engineers weren't just solving complex math equations. They were forced to invent entirely new manufacturing processes right from scratch. They were building massive industrial facilities to refine materials that had barely even existed in microscopic quantities just a few years prior. They fundamentally created a brand new industry, solely dedicated to achieving a nuclear chain reaction.
Sitting right at the center of this sprawling, chaotic web of secrecy and industry was J. Robert Oppenheimer. As the chosen scientific director of the Manhattan Project, the guy carried a crushing, almost unimaginable weight on his shoulders. Think about it. He had to wrangle some of the most brilliant, eccentric minds in the world and basically force them to turn theoretical physics into a functional, deliverable weapon. And he had to do it all while an incredibly destructive global war raged around them, knowing every single day that the enemy might be working on the exact same project.
The physical and engineering hurdles Oppenheimer's team faced were, well, they were just staggering. Moving from equations to a physical bomb meant they needed the right kind of fuel. Specifically, they had to manufacture enough enriched uranium and enough plutonium. Now, these are materials so incredibly rare, unstable, and highly volatile that producing them under wartime conditions was considered by many to be practically impossible. They had to construct massive reactors and complex isotope separation plants, literally racing against the clock to produce just a few pounds of the radioactive core needed to make a bomb actually function.
All right, let's move on to part 3. July 16th, 1945, and the infamous Trinity test.
All the billions of dollars, the years of secret labor, and the unprecedented scientific breakthroughs culminated right here in the quiet desert of New Mexico. And the explosion defied all human comprehension. At 5:29 a.m., this impossibly bright fireball illuminated the surrounding mountains, a flash of light brighter than the actual sun. That was followed instantly by a massive, earth-shaking shockwave that tore across the desert floor, literally knocking observers off their feet from miles away. And finally, as the incredible heat and energy sucked the Earth upward, the dark, towering shape of the world's first nuclear mushroom cloud bloomed into the atmosphere.
As those scientists stood in the desert watching the radioactive fallout drift into the sky, the mood shifted super fast from triumphant celebration to just a profound, creeping dread. The theoretical was now terrifyingly real. They realized instantly that they hadn't just won a scientific race, they had permanently altered the trajectory of human civilization. The ultimate power of the universe had been unleashed, and they knew in their bones that the world, as humanity had known it, was gone forever.
Which leads us to our final section, Part 4, the aftermath and the dawn of the nuclear age.
What's absolutely staggering here is the speed at which this technology moved from a remote test site to the active battlefield. I mean, we went from a world completely devoid of nuclear weapons before 1945 to actual wartime deployment in the blink of an eye. Just weeks, literally weeks, after the Trinity test proved an atomic bomb was physically possible, the United States dropped 2 nuclear weapons on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. The transition from a secret scientific endeavor to a wartime reality happened so incredibly fast that the world barely had time to comprehend what an atomic bomb even was before it was used.
And we have to pause and acknowledge the solemn and devastating reality of these weapons. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki resulted in the direct and indirect deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. Entire cities were flattened in seconds, with countless others suffering from the horrific, lingering effects of radiation sickness. This staggering loss of life instantly demonstrated the true apocalyptic capability of the atom, leaving a permanent scar on human history.
So, the Manhattan Project took us from a single, quiet warning letter from Einstein all the way to the terrifying reality of weapons capable of erasing entire cities in a matter of seconds. It marked the definitive, irreversible dawn of the nuclear age. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this chilling question to reflect on. Now that the nuclear age has officially begun, how exactly does humanity navigate a future where our capacity for unimaginable destruction is a permanent reality?